Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today on Masechtas Nazir daf Chaf Gimel. We're going to begin on the top of Chaf Gimel Amud Aleph by the new Mishnah. Masnisin. Ha'isha shenad ben Nazir. So you have a woman who makes a neder that she's a Nazir. She's breaking all the rules. So it makes sense that she's going to get malchus for having violated this, as we saw previously. Hefer labal, let's say her husband was made for this neder, v'hi lo yada, but she didn't even know about it, shehefer labal, that her husband did so, so she's not going to get malchus because her husband protected her by being made for the nedarim, even though she was really wrong for what she was doing because she had the wrong intentions, but the Metzias is she's not a Nazir. Even though it's true that maybe she's not going to get malchus midiraisa, but we're still going to give her malchus midrabanan in order that she should be rebuked for not behaving in this way. Says the Gemara, Tanaban, Isha hafiram. So it says that the husband annulled. And then it says Hashem yislachla, that Hashem will forgive her. The question is, why do we need forgiveness if it was already removed? So Beisha shehefer labala v'hilo yada kasmadaber. It's telling us, even though the husband was mefer already, but she didn't know that her husband was mefer, she sricha kapara slicha. Still, she needs slicha kapara because she had the wrong intentions. Rabbi Kiva would get to this pasuk, he would cry. And he would say like this: let's say a person who wanted to eat pig, and he got lucky, he ended up eating kosher, even though he really wanted to eat treif. Such a person needs kapara. So imagine if your intention was to do an avera and you actually did the avera, certainly you're going to need kapara. Similarly, it says it was not known and it was guilt, but and they have to lift up the sin. In the event that a person, again, wanted to eat kosher, but it turned out they ended up doing an avera by eating pig, you have a piece of meat. Suffix shel shuman, suffix shel chaylev. You don't know if it's kosher fat or non-kosher fat. Omer kra v'nasa vaynai. So mishnah schavan alalos biyada basar chazir v'ala biyada basar chazir alachskama v'kama. So someone like this certainly is going to need kapara. Isi ben Yehuda Omer v'yadav asher v'nasa vaynai uma mishnah schavan alalos biyada basar tleh. Madach, a person who has kosher meat, yol biyada basar chazir, ends up eating pig. Kigon, actually, it's not a case of one piece, so you don't know which the two pieces are. Kigon shtei chatichos. We're actually talking about a situation where there's two pieces of meat in front of you. Acha shel chel v'acha shel shuman. So one of the two pieces in front of you is certainly kosher, but one of them is certainly not kosher. So he uses the different example because the question is the din when there is one piece and it's a suffix of its chalev or shuman, or does it have to be in the situation where there's two pieces, one is chalev and one is shuman. The low parish kra kidol el. Now it could go in base katicha. The sphere way with Isi ben Yehuda, because according to Isi ben Yehuda, he holds the lo machayev ashem taloi. They don't bring a carbon taloi el chaticha achas mishtei chatichos. It's only if there's two pieces and one of them you don't know. But if it's one piece and we don't know what the status is, so then you would not bring an ashem taloi on that. Al davar zeh yedavu hadovim. If you look in Taisus, Rashi Hatevos, the Rashi Tevos of that is Yadav Ashem, Vinasa. So Yudalid Vav is Yada V'Ashem, Vinasa Hakasav Hamadaber, Ba'ashem Toloi. V'chol Hani Lamali, Tzrichin why do we need all this? The Tana Gabi Asham, if we're talking about a carbon Asham, Hasam Hu de boy Kapara Slicha. Maybe when it comes to that, you need kapara. Mishum dimikara isur echaven, because your initial intention was to do isur. Really, you wanted to eat the kosher fats. Maybe you don't need kapar slicha. No, you still need it in that situation as well. Yimar hada deika isura, but there's an isur in front of you. Aval isha dehafrla bala dehatera lo tiboy kapar slicha. Maybe when it comes to the woman, her husband was already mefer, so maybe there's no need for kapar and slicha. You need that too. The idmar hanitarti havamina hanitarti hu desagil han bekapar slicha. Maybe that's enough. Do ikva isura, because as the Mefarish explains, to saver de shumanhu. So it wasn't like koveh that you were doing iser. The ikva isura, in this situation, says the Mefarish, you definitely knew one of them was not kosher, so sagle bekapara slicha, maybe you're not going to achieve kapara. Kamash malon, the loshna, it doesn't matter. So Rabbi Yochanan, what does the following pasuk mean? Ki yesharim darchei Hashem tzadikim yelchubam, u'poishim, and the sinners yichashlu bam. So mashal shnei b'nei adam, it's a parable to two people. Shetzalu es pischeim, they roasted their carbon pesach. Echad achal l'shom mitzvah, echad achal l'shom achil gasa. So one ate it for the right intentions, and one ate it as a achil gasa. Zeh she'achal l'shom mitzvah v'tzadik mi'elchu bam. V'zeh she'achal l'shom achil gasa u'poishim mi'elchu bam. Amar le Reish Lakish, Hai Rasha Karislei. This guy is called a Rasha. Nihi deloi ka'avid mitzvah hamuvchar. You're going to call this guy Rasha? Okay, he didn't do the mitzvah the best way, but he's doing a mitzvah eating a carbon Pesach. Fine, he's eating his chil gasa. Pesach miya ka'avid. He at least did the thing. Says Taisus. Mashma di'achil gasa shma achila. That's mashma that if you would actually eat the carbon Pesach as a achil gasa, it still works. So kasha, we learn in the end of Masechtas Yoma, ha'oicha achil gasa b'yom kippurim potter. If you eat achil gasa on Yom Kippur, you're potter. The lo shma achil doesn't count. Remember, by the time the train yon achil's gasos. There's two different yonim. Yesh v'ahu diyayma. Like for over there in Yoma, Kigain, the Shenafshu Kotzabachil, Murav Savoy. You're so full that eating another bite would just be disgusting to you. So in that situation, you would eat another bite on Yom Kippur, you're potter. In this case, we're talking about, it's not that you're so full that you're disgusted if you eat anymore. It's just that you don't need to eat anymore. You're not hungry at all. Fine. So in that case, actually, it would work. Interesting Taisus. So again, we're back to the kasha. So if that's the situation, then achil gasu, we shouldn't call him Rasha. Elo mashal shnei b'nei adam ze ishto v'chayso imay. This one has his wife and sister. Ze ishtoi v'chayso imay. Lezen is damno ishtoi, the one who had tashmish at night and you had no idea who it was, his wife. Lezen is damlo achaysai. Zeshin is damlo ishto tzadim yelchabam. Zeshin is damlo achayso poishim yelchabam. Midami anan kamrinan chada derech. Chacha shnei drachim. You're telling one is one way and the other one is shnei drachim. Says Taisus, shat sadik hoylech bo. The tzaddik goes in a certain way. Rasha nichshol ba'oiso derech. Atzmo, and he stumbles in that same way. B'hacha heim shnei drachim. These are two ways. Shezeh ba'al ishtay v'zeh ba'al choysay. Maybe this is not talking about an accident, by the way. It's not so clear. El mashal l'loit v'shnei b'naisav. We're talking about Lot with his two daughters. What is that? Imoi hein shnescham l'shem mitzvah v'tzadikim yelchubam. Hu shnescham l'shem avera poishim yelchubam. So if we're dealing with the one who had tashmish with her father, but it was a shame mitzvah because she thought the whole world was destroyed, so that's a tzaddik. However, tzaddikus, a woman who did it for ulterior motives, they are poishem yichal shabam. The dilma who namushu mitzvah chaven. How do we know? Maybe they They both had intentions l'shem mitzvah. So Rabbi Yochanan kol pasuk hazeh al shem avera nemar. V'yisa loit v'yisa eishes adayna v'seineha es einav. Kihi yashar b'einai. V'yar oyisam shechem. When it says these languages, it's a language of neschaven l'avera. Kihi yashar b'einai. She's beautiful in my eyes. V'yar osa Shechem ben Chamor. So when Shechem saw Dina, as kol or as Chamor as kol kikar hayarden, ki biada isha zaina ad kikar lechem kikola mashke el chol acharim v'yoybe nosani lachmi v'yomei samdi upishti shemeni v'shekoi. I have menas on this. So the question is, why are we saying that Lot was so bad? Lot was an inus. It wasn't his fault. Tani mishum Rabbi Yosef bar Rav Chaini lo menukin al vav u'akaima shel bechira. Why are there dots on the vav in the word v'koma for regarding the first, his oldest daughter? Loimer she b'shachva lo yada, that when they lied down he didn't know. V'bakaima yada. But the next morning, after he was no longer intoxicated, he realized what happened. What she had done. Nafgamina delafanya chrina lo iboy lemishte chamra. So he should have made sure not to drink wine again, because obviously he understood the purpose of why they were doing this, and because of that, there's a possibility that the next daughter is going to do the same thing. The fact that he drank the wine gives some indication that he was not so innocent. Okay. Question 3. So, im not, this is Toisus only. Let me put this down over here, because this is Mamish Toisus, doesn't mark it down. It says like this. Im nashu kotza b'achil merov savol kayim. He's not so hungry. Okay, so that's the chiluk. Question TB 29. So he says, Dechsiv, Isha hafira v'Hashem yislachla. V'pirush d'mayri b'haifer l'bala v'hi yada shehi sricha kapara. So it's a pretty clean question. It's TB 29. So let me just mark this down over here. TB 29. Fine. Isha hafira v'Hashem yislachla. B'isha shehefer l'bala v'hi lo yada hakas medaber. She sricha kapara tzlicha. Okay. All right. Weiter. Dorish Rabba, Ma'adaksiv ach navsha mikrius ois. What do we learn out from this pasuk, which is in its entirety? The pasuk says in Mishlei, ach nifsha mikrius ois umidyanim kivriach armoin. So, which actually we're going to quote that also in the next Amud. So what does that mean? Umedichim kivriach armon, like the bolt of armoin. Ach navsha mikirias oz. What is referring to? The brother who sinned in the city, the strong city Zelot. Shepirish mi Abraham. This is referring to Abraham, who's separated from Lot, who's separated from Abraham. Umedinim kivriach armoin. He's like a bolt of armon. Shehitel madinim kivrichim, that he made a fight just like a bolt. The armoin lo yavo adoin armoin lo yavo amoini moavi b'kal Hashem. Let's see if let's look at this Tosfos. Al sheheyer medinim beyond levein Yisrael. Kivrichim armoin al yidei riv shahaya ben Lot uben Abraham. This is referring to the quarrel between Lot And Abraham could eksiv al natahi mariva. Let's not fight with each other. V'garmu mariva li'parim Abraham, and the fighting is what caused them to ultimately be separated. The alidei kain nichshol b'bnaisav, because they ended up moving to Sodom, and then Sodom was destroyed. So their daughters were nichshol v'nasa kivrichim. They were like these bolts. Shenoalim es armoin shein hachitzayim yechol chanes lifnim, that no one from the outside could enter in. Kach nasu amoinim Moavim. So too, when it comes to Ammon and Moab, she'asun lavo b'kahal. That's the connection. Bereshis Rabbah darish lefi she'asun b'kahal v'zar. Okay. So that means they were like locked like a door because they Ammon and Moab are also b'kahal. Darish Rabbi Veitem Rabbi Yitzchak Ma'neksiv L'Savi Yavakish Nifrod. Says the Mefarsh, L'Davar Avera Yavakish, regarding a sin we wish to do, Misha Nifrod, someone who's separated. Ve'ezu Zelot Shenifrod Miel Abraham. It's going to be again who's separated. V'chol Toishia Yisgola. So L'Tavan Yavakish Nifrod Zelot. V'chol Toishia Yisgola Shenis Gola Kiloinai B'Batik Anas B'Batim Midrashais. His kilayon was revealed to all the shuls. So what does that mean? We'll see this in a second. Let's finish this. That not Amonim Moab Yasurin v'Yasurin Yasur Oilam, because Ammon and Moab, which were the children of his daughters, are also to come to Kal Hashem. Says the Mefarsh, B'shtei Taurus, the Torah Nikras Toishia. Torah is called Toishia. This is Havle Eitza Higdal Toishia. Torah Shebechsav v'Torah Shemal Peh. B'Torah Shebechsav b'Bati Knasiyos. Keksiv Hoyavo Amoini Moavi. B'Torah Shemal Peh b'Bati Midrashos Kenan Amoni Moavi, etc. So that's what it's referring to. V'Chol Toishia, and all the Torah is Gola. It was revealed, which is in Torah Shebechsav and Torah Shemal Peh, which seems quite similar to what Tosfos says. Okay. Tamar, Zinsa, Zimre, Zina. So look in the Mefarsh. Tamar, Zinsa, when it's Chavan l'shem mitzvah. Now when she was with Yehuda, it was l'shem mitzvah. Kedei l'hamid zera. So she's have children. They receive kirasa ki gadol shilo. Because she realized that, her other two husbands died and she wasn't given the third, so she did this all l'shem shemayim. So Tamar was Zinsa, Zimri Zina. Zimra, we know Zimri ben Salu, when it came to in Parshas Pinchas, he was Neschav l'shem Avera. Tamar Zinsa Yatzim min Malachim Unavim. So she ended up having kings, Malachim and David, and Nevi'im Yeshaya. Zimri Zina Nafal of Kamar V'Vais Yisrael. Because of his sin, many myriads of Jews died. Amrav Nachmar Yitzchak Gedayla V'Er L'Shma Mitzvah Shlo L'Shma. Very interesting. Better to do a sin L'Shma than a mitzvah Shlo L'Shma. Obviously, it doesn't give you a right to do a mitzvah an Aver Shlo L'Shma, but it means that it was done L'Shem mitzvah. Where Rabbi Yehuda Merab, and where do we find such a thing? So we're going to see. What do you mean? We know that a person should do a mitzvah even shlo l'shma, because mitzvah shlo l'shma bo l'shma, or l'shman. Ela ema kim mitzvah shlo l'shma. It has the same level. Dechsiv tivarich menashim yoel eishes chaver hakeni. Menashim oil tavorich. So man nashim shiba oil. Who are these women who are literally in the tent? The greatest women, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah. And yet we say that she, Yael, who was with Sisera, even though it was an Avera, but it was a Shem Shemayim, so therefore it was because of that, it has the same chashivus, the same level, and she's on the same level as Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah. It says Taisus, V'im timer ha'amrin ba'alma and sex brachas ha'isa b'mitzvah shol shema noachol shanivra, very famous taisus. Yeshlomi the hasa ma'ir sha'isa mitzvah shol shema kafeach acherim. It's to kind of like learn the Torah to be able to misuse it. V'hacha karma sha'isa b'tar shol shema was gadim likna shame. It's just to become a tzad, say, oh, I'm a big tzaddik, I'm so smart, for ulterior motives. That's b'tar shol shema. Okay. So Taisus v'ad amr di'aver l'shma diva mitzvah shol l'shma. Okay. So again we said b'sar ksiv v'hinehi b'oil. If you look in Taisus, b'rivka ksiv v'yaver yitzchak ha'ohala sar imoy b'rachel b'lei ksiv v'yatzim oil leia v'yaver b'oil rachel v'nashim haynu d'ksiv nashim. So that's what it means, that these women are considered to be an oil, like a tent. There's an element of the level of modesty. It was actually 7 times this man was boil, this Rasha was boil her at that time. Shenemar bein ragleha kira nafal shacha. So we look in the pasuk. This is again regarding the pasuk of Ya'al. Bein ragleha kara v'nafal shacha bein ragleha kara nafal b'asher kara sham nafal shadud. So avaha ka mishanya mebila delay. L'chayra, the question is, isn't there some element of her getting hana? So how do we understand this, right? So before we go vital, let's look at this mafarish. Sar rachel b'leah she'amru levaleihen leva el shevchasan lo l'shem mitzvah nischabnu el kadei sheskanoi zu rachel ba'achoisa v'sar b'leah ba'imahoi sekul nemrahen oil. So essentially the mafarish says it was shlo shma, the notion that they said, yeah, take others, but it was maybe cause kinna with one another. Sheva bilos, bein kriyam and afila, b'shchiva isbahu sheva b'haikra. It was 7 times. So the question is, it says Taisus, in the hinami deloi kashlo tiharig vo tavor. I understand there's no Indian of tarig val tavor, that she has to give up her life. After all, we learned about Esther, she was a karka oilam haisa. And if a woman is a karka oilam, so she's passive in when they're having relations, so she's not doing anything. Why are we praising her? She's getting hana. And Mishani says, Taisus, more going to say, there was no hana for her. The toivasin shorishayim ra. The toiv of a wicked person is bad. Even if someone who's Russia gives you something, it's bad. Okay, so that's what the Gemara is going to answer. I have a hokum as time to be able to delay. So Rabbi Yochanan kultivos and shorashayim enu elora etzel sadikim. And Shenemar hishamocha medaber im yakum etoiv adra. So this is referring to Esav. That even when Esav went to kiss Yaakov, we know it says he kissed him, but maybe he wanted to bite him. So even something which is good is really bad. Seemingly good is bad. Bishul Mara Shopper Elotoiv Amai low. Why can't you accept anything good? Now allow Shemamina Tavasa Rahi Shemamina. When a Russia also is Poshub Shot, if a Russia does something good for you, he's not doing it because he really wants to do something good for you. He's doing it for ulterior motives, and therefore that's the reason why it's bad. Goofa, getting back to what we said before. Rabbi Yehuda Marav, so that's the famous drasha that a person should always learn shlo shman. Why? We see this. Shibaskara membeis karbanos shaker Balak harasha. Balak brought 42 sacrifices, and since he brought 42 karbanos, zachav yatzim mena rus. He was zaycha that rus came from him, from Balak. So we obviously see, even though he obviously brought down these karbanos for the wrong reason, something good eventually came from him. Yomi Rabbi Yosi Rabbi Chanina Rus bas benay shel Egloin melech Moav haisa. Rus was actually the granddaughter of Egloin, who was the king of Moab. Rav Chima Rabba Rav Yochanan Manayin Shena Kodesh Baruch Mechafeach Afil Sachar Sichana. How do that Hashem doesn't hold back even the reward for a more pleasant language? Deil Bechira, the oldest daughter, the Karisa Moav, that she went out of her way to say that her son's name is Moab, which is very clear. It's from her father. Amalei Rahman al Tatzir el es Moav. You're not allowed to cause fighting with them. Yal Tiskar Bam Milchama Hudaloi Avatsuri Sarinan, but you could aggravate them. Ve'il Tzare, the younger daughter, the Kari ben Ami, she called her son less of a clear name. It was a sichana, a better language. Armalei al tisayram bi al tiskerbam. I feel tsurilo titzarinan klal. So Moab, you could aggravate them, but Moab Ammon, you cannot, because she chose the language. Amrav Chi Rabbi Amrav Yeshua ben Karcha Olam Yatam Adam L'Davar Mitzvah. Person should always do a mitzvah fast. Shebeschar Laila Achas Shekadmasa Bechir L'Tzira. Because the first sister had tashmish with Lot before the second one, even though it was just one day, as we continue to Chaf Daled Amud Aleph, Zachsa v'kadma arba daras b'Yisrael malchus. She was Zaycha that 4 generations came before her. Where do we see that? Oived Yishai David Shlomo. V'il Tzeirei lo habib Yisrael ad Rechavam ben Shlomo. So we find that when it came to Moab, which we know, as we just linked this to Rus, and she had a child David, so this is a melech. So we find 4 generations, Oived, Yishai, David, Shlomo. Exactly what does that mean? I mean, Shlomo wasn't just the first melech, David was also the melech. Regardless, when it came to the second daughter of Ammon, she only had a child in Malchus from the time of Rechavam, who went against the time of Yerubbaal ben Nevat. Okay, we're going to stop there. Let's see maybe another couple of questions. Question 4. Where do we find someone got reward for a mitzvah shelo lishma? Uma ha'isah mitzvah, ma ha'isachara. B'schar membeis karbonos shehikri balak zacha v'yatsi mimenu ros. Which again is fascinating because he certainly didn't do it lishma. TA28. I got this wrong. Mehechin Yolaf Rabbi Yochanan l'inyan Sisra. Where did we see regarding Sisra, Chaf Gimel Medbeis, Dechol toivasan shirashayim einun elo ra etzel tzadikim. So this has to do, I mean, it basically gave it away. They wrote in parentheses l'inyan Sisra. So, I mean, obviously this we know the answer. Oh, where do we find, I guess in the pasuk, but it says he shenemar hishamocha medaber im Yaakov mitoiv v'ad ra. So what does that mean, mitoiv v'ad ra? So I understand taking something bad, you don't want something bad. Esav shouldn't give something bad to him. But why something good? Because even something which comes from Russia, it's all considered to be bad. Okay. Adkan.